Hello, this is Adam Virgo, and you are listening to the V2 Football Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the V2 Football Podcast. I'm Anthony Kendrick, and joining me this week we've got Dan Tracey.
Good evening.
And we've got Richard Hudson.
Good evening.
You guys both well?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Yes, apart from the news that's just broke that Liverpool scored.
The game's in progress as we record this, so I'm sure that listeners, they already know the results. So, well, yeah. All right. Just want to start with a few quick stories, a few things which have caught my eye this week. This one's from Chris. He said that local scientists recorded a mini earthquake to 0.3 on the Richter scale when Aloha scored the winner against Norwich last month. The fans all celebrating caused an earthquake.
That's brilliant, that. I don't know what sort of else to say about it, but yeah, I saw the news on it. I thought it was quite funny.
Great fans, Leicester.
Yeah, I suppose it's just sheer relief coming from that late goal, isn't it? But to get on the Richter scale, that's quite an achievement.
Yeah.
Was it all just jumping up and down at the same time?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I had a quick look. It was in the sun. So
it must be true then.
Must be. It must be. It seems reputable, but I don't know. Edwin van der Sar's back from his retirement. He's playing for his local side, VV Nordvik. He played there before he joined Ajax. They assume it's just for one game because their regular keeper's injured, but, well, they've said it may be longer, so that could be interesting.
How old's he now?
He's 45. He's 45.
It's not a bad ringer to have, I suppose, in between the nets, is it? So
bit of experience there.
That's right.
Saw this on Sky Sports that former Italy midfielder Gennaro Gattuso would walk to Man United if he was offered the job.
Yes, I saw that as well.
Currently
he's manager of the third-tier Italian side, isn't he?
Yeah. He's told his agent though that he's trying to get a job at Hamilton in Scotland, and he's told his agent to focus on that and not to look at anything else. He said he could do a lot for them in their academy. So
he hasn't had the greatest sort of managerial career. I mean, he's managed Sion in Switzerland, but he's just sort of, like I say, gone around the houses in sort of smaller European clubs. So, I mean, that'd be a hell of a leap of faith for Man United to appoint someone like Gattuso, but I think it's just lazy paper talk, really, more than anything else.
Well, I
don't suppose he could do a worse job than Van Gaal, though.
Well, he was asked the question. I suppose he's got to answer it, hasn't he?
That's true.
All right, let's move on to something a bit more serious. The Premier League have announced there's a £30 cap on away tickets from next season it's a 3-year deal. Do you guys think this is a good move?
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry, Richard. Yeah, I think. Well, it's a great bit of news, really, isn't it? I mean, it's about time. I suppose it's what football needs, really. If you sort of start killing off the away element and pricing that out as well, that you're going to sort of start losing that atmosphere, and it's going to become a very sort of soulless corporate game. So, yeah, it's about time and a massive step in the right direction by the Premier League.
Yeah, that's what I'd say on it. It's a step in the right direction, but it's only one step. Yeah, what about the home fans? What about making sure that kids can afford that it's cheap enough for kids to go regularly? Because still at the moment, to go to United for me is beyond about what I would decide as an expense I'm willing to pay.
I could tell you the Midtjylland game. I looked at getting tickets because they only sold. It was about 50,000 for the game, and it was about 40, 50 quid a ticket.
Yeah.
You know, but well, I suppose I don't think either of you would argue that it's a bad move, the £30 away ticket cap.
No, and there's one guy I know that's been to every away West Brom game for about 9 years. I don't know why you would do that, but. You wouldn't want to go to their home games, never mind following them around the country. But he must be laughing for the money he's going to be saving there.
True. All right, let's have a quick look at tonight's Champions League action. As I mentioned before, the United Liverpool game's currently playing as we speak. Spurs played earlier tonight, though. I suppose Dan, I've got to start with you. What did you make of the game?
Well, we were just outclassed from minute 1 to minute 90, really. Pochettino rotated his team, and it's backfired massively. I can see why he's done it, because I think he's obviously now thinking that the Premier League is the main priority and probably the more likely the trophies to win. But we certainly missed Eric Dyer in midfield. Ryan Mason and Tom Carroll in the centre of the park aren't sort of the same calibre as Dyer and Dembele and Dele Alli, so we're really missing some key players. And we started brightly for the first 5 minutes, but then it was just wave after wave Dortmund attack, and you sort of hope at 1-0 after that half time. You think, well, if we can keep it 1-0, we'll take that and we'll take it back to White Hart Lane being tied. But at 3-0, it's almost dead rubber really, and you sort of think, well, they now have to win on Sunday to justify that rotation, and if they don't win then it really would have backfired. But at this point in the night around for Tottenham, I think, in a rare defeat of this magnitude, I think it's the first time they've lost by more than a goal this season, so a bit of a culture shock for the young Spurs side, but yeah, a night to forget.
At 3-0.
I think it's a huge shame for Spurs. It's like people sort of look back on last season's Dortmund side that at one point was sort of bottom of the league and eventually, what did they finish about 7th or 8th? They did a bit of a Chelsea last season. But that's still a solid Dortmund side that they've got there, and I'd probably have them down for winning the Europa League this season. But it's a good test for the young lads there.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't think it was really necessarily a case of Tottenham playing bad as such. I think it was literally just Dortmund are that much better, and I think that is a top calibre European team, and I think it's the measure of how Tottenham still have got to get that little bit better to be really as a sort of upper echelon European side. So no disgrace, but just a disappointing result really, and lose 3-0, you're out of the tie almost, so it makes the second leg almost a dead rubber, but we move on.
Do you think the Europa League matters though, or do you think he's done the right thing resting players, or do you think he should be concentrating on the Europa League a bit more and playing a full strength 11?
Well, I think it all boils. Football fans have very short memories, don't they? So if we win on Sunday, it's not really the end of the world. I think only then it becomes a stick to beat Pochettino with if we don't somehow beat Villa on Sunday, and it's all, well, why have we rotated when we could have gone all out on Thursday? So it's hard to sort of really define an answer for that yet. I mean, you don't will it sort of pay off until the end of the season when we actually maybe do get a trophy. So
you'd be expecting even a tired Spurs side though to be beating a pretty awful Villa side.
That's true.
For 3 days.
Yeah, there were certainly some questionable decisions in that lineup, but Pochettino, he knows best. He's the manager, but he certainly did raise some eyebrows when the lineup come up. And Dortmund obviously they've gone for it, and they're second in their league, 5 points behind. So I know it's maybe not quite a sort of difficult week in week out in the Bundesliga, but they've still really had a proper go at tonight's game. So you still do have to question why Spurs have taken a back seat in that, but I don't know.
All right,
frustrating, I think.
Let's move on to the Champions League then. The main game, Chelsea lost 2-1 to PSG, 4-2 on aggregate. Do you think they'll ever be able to compete with the top teams in Europe?
Well, they have done, haven't they? They won it a couple of years ago. So, yeah. I think they'll recover. They're going to have a problem next year with not having Champions League football and who they can attract. There's certain players that want Champions League football at all costs will want to move on. I could see Costa leaving in the summer, probably Hazard as well. But I could also certainly see them throwing a lot of cash at certain players that appreciate a healthy bank balance.
Do you mean as in, can Chelsea compete or can PSG compete as a top level sort of and win the Champions League?
Well, I suppose you could ask either question, couldn't you? I guess Chelsea have been knocked out against PSG a couple of times now, and they've not been able to compete with them or the top teams since winning it. And then I suppose PSG, you could argue that's an interesting point. Could they compete with?
If I take from the PSG slant, I suppose they're never really going to be taken seriously as that top level European club, as if like a Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid, until they win a trophy themselves. And you could have almost made the case for Chelsea before they won it in 2012 themselves. So I think PSG have certainly got the team to go on and win it. They're in the quarterfinals and they're probably as good a side as any, but they won't be taken too seriously until they actually win their first ever Champions League trophy. So as for Chelsea, it's going to be probably a year off in European competition because I think the injuries to Hazard and Costa, depending on how long they are, is probably going to hamper any outside chance they had of the Europa League finish as well. So they may play into hands next season because with no European football, they'll then be fresher and a bit more dangerous in the league. So maybe a year to sort of regroup and, like you say, clear out a few of the names that could be gone in the summer. I don't think Hazard wants to be there after swapping his shirt at half time, which didn't go down too well with the Chelsea fan base, did it? But yeah, I think Chelsea certainly.
Hazard-wise, didn't he only join Chelsea for the reason because he was pretty much on the plane to either United or Chelsea? United or City that summer. He said he was going to Manchester, and then Chelsea won the Champions League, and he changed his mind because Chelsea were going to still be in the Champions League. So he is a player that only wanted to come there because they were in the Champions League, Now, obviously, they're not going to be in the Champions League. He's going to be on his way.
Where do you think he'll end up?
I could see him actually going to PSG.
Yeah, because he can't go to Real Madrid, can he, if that transfer ban's in place? So
I don't think it will be in place come this summer. I think the appeal will knock it back one.
Just a thought, do you think?
Okay, well, yeah, PSG's not a bad shout. I think it's not going to be a Premier League team. We're very surprised if it was. So you then have to ask, where else can he actually end up going? So
Here's a
I think
thought.
PSG might be
Could he end up
a
at
pretty
Bayern
obvious
Munich?
destination.
Could he end up at Bayern Munich with Ancelotti taking over? I think it was him that brought him to Chelsea, wasn't it?
Possibly. What's their sort of wage cap? Because I actually didn't pay that much on the wages.
Well, I'm sure players like Robin and, you know...
They'll certainly be on a lot, but I wonder if they can compete on a weekly wage with like PSG, Chelsea and the two Spanish clubs.
But Bayern...
I think they can if it's for the right player. I don't think it's like such a rigid structure like Arsenal or something like that. I mean, if the talent is there, then they'll sort of spend what they have to. But I think it's also, would a player want to go from the Premier League to the Bundesliga? I mean, it's not really a direction of talent you see that often, really. And I know Bayern Munich is a big sort of European club, but it'd be quite interesting to see someone do that kind of move. It's usually the opposite way round, isn't it? Yeah, but
if he wants to win the Champions
I
League,
think
it'd be a good place to go.
On 180 million euros a year, their wage bill.
180.
So I don't know what that equates to. Vidal's on them, I think, the most.
180.
Oh no, sorry, Lewandowski is 15 million
Euro.
a year in euros.
So that's what, say about £10 million. That's 200k a week. So that's still more.
What's Rooney on?
Well, he's on a bit more than that, isn't he? I suppose. But
Which would you rather have?
well, good question. I'll tell you a player who also could be on the move, Ibrahimovic. Do you think there's any truth to the rumours with him to United?
If Mourinho comes to United in the summer, then yes, nailed on. He absolutely loves Mourinho, and he absolutely despises Guardiola. So I could very much see him wanting to come out in the red of United against Guardiola's City.
Could you see him joining any other Premier League club, or would it just be United?
No, just United. He doesn't like Chelsea. He fell out with Arsenal because they wanted him on trial, and as I mentioned before, he won't go anywhere near Guardiola.
Well, he implied before he's going to play in the Premier League next in an interview, so it'd be interesting to see where he ends up.
Unless he turns up at Leicester.
You never know. Ibrahimovic and Vardy up front would be a serious partnership.
I think it would be good if Ibrahimovic does come to the Premier League, because if he didn't, you'd always wonder how good he would be in this league. So it would always be like an unanswered question, wouldn't it? So I think he's sort of, say if he could almost leave PSG on a high by winning the Champions League, that would be the perfect exit stage. Not to say they will win it, but they've got every chance being still in the tournament. But I think now is probably the time for him to go, because if he goes any later, I think it's then you're going to see him on the wane, aren't you? So I think if he was to leave this summer, you could still get at least a good year or two out of him. So I think, as Richard says, if he does come to the Premier League, it's going to only be Manchester United, isn't it? Like, for the reasons that he's listed, I couldn't really see him going anywhere else. Tottenham, if they were to win the league, maybe, but I think that's a very outside chance. So yeah, I think if you're a betting man, you'd put your money on Manchester United, wouldn't you?
His trophy record is just phenomenal, though, isn't it?
Hasn't
title-wise.
Hasn't he won so many in a row?
His 13th league title in 15 seasons this year.
Hasn't he won a league title with every club he's gone to in the first season?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a stat like that, yeah. All right.
So,
bring him to United.
Exactly.
There's the other English sides in the Champions League, Arsenal to play Barcelona and City to play Kiev. Do you think it's pretty obvious what the results are going to be, or do you think there's going to be a shock anywhere?
No, I think they're both formalities. Arsenal, I know they got a win against the mighty Hull the other night, but they're looking at a team low on morale and confidence at the moment. And City are pretty much going to walk it against Kiev, who were easily the weakest side, I think, still in the tournament.
Yeah, I think the first legs have obviously shaped how the ties are going to pan out. I think had Arsenal got a goal at the Emirates, then maybe they'd have half a chance against Barcelona Nou Camp, but I think it's only going to go one way, and like you say, City in the box seat already with a 3-1 win in Kiev. I'd be very, very surprised if they somehow threw that away. So it's as you are, really, and I'd be They'll be in the quarter-final. So it's looking quite a strong lineup now, actually, isn't it? You can only say Wolfsburg maybe as a team that's not really Champions League worthy, but anyone else, it's going to be quite a difficult tie from here on in.
I was just going to mention that the other teams. I was just going to mention the other teams: Benfica, Real Madrid, and Wolfsburg all qualified this week. A couple of entertaining games there. I watched Madrid beat Roma 2-0, which was a good game.
Yeah, Roma had a few chances early on. I think they needed to score first to make anything of the game, really, but they didn't take their chances, and then it was sort of Real Madrid got more into the groove, didn't they? And then once they got their opener through Ronaldo, that was game over pretty much. And then the second one in quick succession from James Rodriguez. But yeah, it was a decent game. Roma sort of gave a good account of themselves.
Were the fans still booing Ronaldo?
It wasn't noticeable on TV. I remember. I don't know.
Because I saw in the paper the day afterwards that he was still getting booed, even though he scored and assisted. The fans just have not ever taken to him, which I don't get.
To be honest, I think it's a bit of the media. I think they want to portray him as this sort of horrible guy. I think that's part of it, that they don't want him to be seen as a likeable person, and it fits that agenda.
I think also some of the fans also boo because it's sort of like, well, we're backing him against the media, so it's like, well, he's our Ronaldo, so we'll boo him because he's ours. It's a weird sort of setup, but they're sort of almost, by booing him, they're sticking two fingers up at everyone else almost. It's a bit of a weird setup, but whether it makes him unhappy or not, I don't know, but I don't think it's enough to sort of force him out in the club in the summer or anything like that. And Zidane's gone on record to say he's not looking to sell him, so I think it's a nothing story, really.
The thing is, which journalist...
the other day that he put in a transfer request, though.
Yeah, but that's Spanish papers for you, isn't it? I mean, they just... I don't think there's much truth in that.
Mark is worse than the sun.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on. We've got a quiz tonight, which Dan's going to host for us. Do you want to tell us what this quiz is this week, Dan?
Yep, it's the quiz time part, and this week it's the two-parter, so it's like a penalty shootout format. So you're going to get 5 shots each. The 2 questions are going to be based on players who have played for Club A and Club B. So there'll be 10 players, and they would have played for both clubs. So in question 1, it will be name the 10 players that have played for Barcelona and Arsenal.
Oh.
So we'll have a home and away leg. The away goals don't count double or anything like that, but I have got a tiebreaker if it's still level after the two legs. So we'll add up the scores at the end. So who wants the home leg first?
I'll have it.
Okay, Anthony's going to go first in this leg. So Richard, you'll go first in the second leg. Okay, so as I said, there's 10 players, and they both played for Barcelona and Arsenal.
Alexis Sanchez.
Goal.
Thierry Henry.
Yep, goal.
Are there only 10 in total, or do you know?
I believe so. So it's not like an ambiguous sort of 50 list.
Curious.
I've always been curious.
Alex Song.
Yep, correct.
Fabregas.
Obvious
yep,
one. I'm trying. I've got an obscure one. I'm trying to think of a bit more obvious.
I'm saving the obscure ones.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying
you
to
want
do.
to keep the obscure as your fit penalty taker, don't you?
Yeah, it's just trying to.
There's 6 more on the list.
Kleb.
Correct. Goal.
Good to know. Betty.
It's another goal. It's 3-all. 4 to go.
No, it's difficult. What's all like? Squillaci.
No, miss.
Struggling now.
Vermilion, whoever
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. No,
Has he played yet?
Yeah.
Yes, now, yes.
Good shout. I don't know. Almunia.
Wrong.
No.
3 out of 5 for you, Anthony.
Clive Overmars to make it a full house.
You can, yep. So Richard's in the driving seat at the end of the first leg of a 5-3 win. So good work though, lads. 8 out of 10. And the only 2 that were missing were Silvino and Van Bronckhorst.
Oh, good shouts. Well done. All right.
But still all to play for in the second leg, so it's not over. We'll come back to that later.
All right. So I've got there was a question asked on the BBC this week. Is Steve McClaren the worst manager ever in the Premier League? What do you guys think?
I think that's a bit harsh.
Yeah. I don't think he's the worst one. Maybe sort of because he's had the reputation of being an England manager and he's been a bit more high profile. But I think there's certainly been worse. You could point at Felix Magath, for example, another perhaps high profile manager, but he was awful at Fulham. Terry Connor, I think, was my worst ever manager, but he took over at Wolves. He had 13 games to try and keep Wolves up, and he didn't win one of them. He only drew 4. So I think for me that's the worst one.
I
think
think
that's Clark was the one for Newcastle last year. He was pretty dire.
What, John Carver?
No, sorry, Carver. Who's
exactly. That's another good shout.
I'll tell you what. I wrote down 4 names before starting this: Felix McGowan, John Carver, Paul Jewell, and Terry Connor. And you've just said 3 of them straight away. So I suppose that says a lot.
I think Paul Jewell's. I think he did all right.
Well, he was at Derby. He was in a bit of an impossible situation,
okay.
to be fair.
Because with him, at least he'd sort of done well bringing them up and stuff in the first place.
He didn't bring him up. It was Billy Davis.
He did something all right, though, didn't he? Win the classic.
Bradford he brought up.
Yeah, he was at Wigan, weren't he, before?
Yeah.
And he did all right at Wigan, but at Derby, he replaced Billy Davis and led the side to the lowest ever points total of 11.
Souness, he was shocking as a manager.
He's a good pundit, though.
Yeah, but I think he's sort of worked out, he's got to the conclusion he's not a good manager and he doesn't want to go back into it, or I think that ship sailed, really. I mean, he won the League Cup with Blackburn, didn't he? But never quite matched the stature of his playing career, really, did he? It was a bit disappointing. I wouldn't say, again, he's the worst, but...
Ince at Blackburn?
Ince is another good shout.
What about the other one, Steve Keane, yeah.
And Scolari, when he was at Chelsea, he was shocking.
Spurs have had quite a few. Christian Gross, if you go back.
He was poor.
Jacques Santini, next French coach.
Yeah.
About 12 games in 2004, so we've had more than our fair share. So, and certainly worse than Steve McClaren. So I think quite harsh to Steve McClaren, to be honest. He's obviously doing not a great job at Newcastle, but we could be here all night naming bad managers that are worse than Steve McClaren.
I was going to say, I think we've concluded that he's not the worst manager in the Premier League, but there is apparently a short list of managers to replace him. There's an 8-man short list, apparently, including David Moyes, Rafael Benitez and Nigel Pearson. Assuming McClaren, if McClaren does leave, who would you bring in to replace him?
A lot of the ones that have been mentioned, I just don't know if they're sort of managers that are up for a fight at the bottom end of the table.
I think Nigel Pearson would be.
Yeah, he's probably the worst of the choices, but probably the best for the situation, if that makes sense.
I guess it's when you make that change, because you're right, someone like Rafa Benitez or David Moyes, they're not going to want to get stuck in with 8 games to go, because it's almost like a lost cause. I know that with a half-decent shout of staying up because of the form of Norwich and Sunderland as well, but are they going to want a relegation on their CV if they don't manage to do the job? So if the replacement had to be made now, then you look at someone like Nigel Pearson, who could get his sleeves rolled up and get right into action straight away, whereas if it was a change in the summer, then you could look at Moyes or Benitez if they had Premier League status still. So it's a case of when they pull the trigger and actually need to make that change, and that sort of will dictate who or what they can bring in.
Can you see him being sacked imminently?
You can't see Rafa Benitez wanting to go down to the Championship, can you?
No, absolutely not. And this is someone who was managing Real Madrid at the start of the season, so it'd be quite fall from grace, wouldn't it?
Let's talk about the relegation battle in general then. It seems like you've got a bottom 4 because you've got Sunderland 25 points, Norwich and Newcastle 24, and Villa on 16. It looks like it's 3 from those 4.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Villa, it's just a case of when now, isn't it? I know it's still mathematically possible, but the way they've been playing, it's just you just want to put them out of their misery really and just get it over and done with. But taking them out of the equation, it's definitely 2 from 3 because of things like Swansea and Bournemouth. They've got wins at just the right time, so they're sort of got that buffer. You could maybe make a case of Crystal Palace if they keep losing and then the other teams do sort of get a few wins. They could maybe shelve that 9-point gap, but I think Norwich's form has let them down at just the wrong time, and I think they're going to be in real trouble. And then you're looking at either Sunderland or Newcastle, and again, it depends if Steve McClaren's still in the job, and if they do make a change, would that then boost Newcastle's chance of staying up? So I reckon it's going to be Villa, Norwich, and one of those North East clubs, and I think at the moment you'd probably say Newcastle. I don't know. What do you think, Richard?
I'd be quite happy if they got rid of all 4.
It's about time.
A special for this season.
They're all just gash. It's a shame for the northeast of England at the moment that there's such an awful load of football in the northeast. You look at all of Yorkshire and then up to Tyne and Wayside, and none of them are playing deep. There's probably Middlesbrough is probably the best side at the moment of all of them.
Does this does it not point to a wider trend of sort of northern powerhouses like Leeds, Sheffield Wednesday, all those kind of clubs that are sort of struggling because players don't want to go to those kind of places. It's not a slight at the North or any disrespect like that, but if you're a foreign footballer looking to earn 60, 70 grand, are you going to want to live in places like Leeds, Sheffield, Middlesbrough? You know, you want to be in a more cosmopolitan area like London, Liverpool, Manchester. Is that sort of quite significant, or is that just a coincidence?
No, I think you bang on it, because there definitely seems to have been, over the last 20 years, a real decline in football across the Pennines. You look at the Northwest clubs; they're still getting bigger and bigger. But over the hills, they're all in just disarray nowadays.
I think you see it with big transfers, though, big names who get linked to London clubs and northern clubs. You do often see that they pick the London club, like for example, Alexis Sanchez at Arsenal is a good example of that.
Yeah, I suppose you could always say, well, I know we covered Hazard earlier, but I think being in London as well would obviously push that move a bit closer towards Chelsea. So it certainly can sway a move, can't it?
Yeah.
You know, the bright lights of London versus the rain of Manchester. And again, it's not me digging the north or anything like that, but I suppose a foreign footballer's mentality is certainly going to have quite a big swing in their decision. I suppose also, if they've got a wife or a girlfriend, are they going to want to live in, again, London or Liverpool, London or Manchester? So I think London certainly has that pull, and it's no, like I say, it's no coincidence, isn't it? But it's very interesting to see. You sort of wonder. It's also, you get clubs like I don't know, Reading and all these other clubs like Southampton. It's no coincidence that the bracket of southern clubs that are now taking the places of the northern clubs that used to be in the top flight. So it's certainly a trend. It's be interesting to see how far that trend continues.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. If you look sort of 20 years ago, the number of if you put like a line across where all the teams in the Premier League are situated on a map, how far down it's moved over 20 years as the average.
I'll try and do some research for next week's show, see if I can get the average point or something. But that would be an interesting thing to look at for sure.
I bet it's really gone quite a bit further south in the past 20 years.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the second part of our quiz. So over to you, Dan.
Okay, so still in the balance with a 5-3 first leg lead for Richard, and this time it's named the 10 players that have played for Arsenal and Chelsea. So apologies, it's a very Arsenal themed quiz, but
and you're a Spurs fan as well.
I know, so it's even more bizarre, but I thought they were good questions. So that's the lay of the land tonight. So again, it's name the 10 players that played for Arsenal and Chelsea, and it's Richard to go first in this leg.
Well, one straight away that springs to mind because I've already said him. Petit.
Yeah, that's right.
Ashley Cole.
Yeah, correct.
And I'm going to go for the second one that I've already said. Fabregas.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there are a few duplicates, but well done for spotting them.
I hadn't even thought of Fabregas. Again, I missed him last time. Is there anyone blatantly obvious? Czech.
Yes, correct.
Gallas.
That was mine.
Yeah, that's right. 3-2.
Really struggling here. This is bad.
There's a couple that you should know.
Yeah, there's 5 in the list, and to be honest, there are 2 sort of historical ones. So this leg's a little bit harder, but there's still. You can imagine there's still 3 you probably should get if you've got the rest of them. So 2 sort of curveballs.
There's 2 that straight away sprung to mind for me. I can't think of any.
Sorry, I got one. Diarra.
Yes, shout 3-all.
That's probably enough to go.
My one next is Lasuk.
Anelka.
Yeah.
Let's confirm that. So yeah, that's right. 3 to go.
That was a good shot on Diarra.
Yes.
Gonna have to hurry you.
Yeah, sorry.
That's right.
Benayoun?
Yes. Goal. Or a piece. And right, these 2 are quite historical, so we'll be surprised if you don't get them, but have a stab by all means.
Well, if we're going back a bit sort of 80s, 90s, then I'll go for Rocastle.
He did, yeah. Okay, Rocastle. Right, there's one more. Right. Richard's got a clean sweep. You can't lose the quiz, Richard. You've won it.
What's the final one?
And the last one was George Graham.
Oh, today?
Yeah.
Wouldn't have got that.
No, that's fair enough.
There's some of the managers that you so associate with certain clubs, and then you look back at who they played for, and you think like they played for like the rivals and stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like Matt Busby. He played his actual playing career was for City and Liverpool.
Yeah, George Graham played 2 years at Chelsea, 64 to 66, and then had a 6-year stint at Arsenal after that. And obviously the managerial stint with all the trophies in the late 80s and early 90s. But the final score, 10-7 in all. But good quiz there, lads. You've done quite well, actually. Very impressed. So Richard wins that one.
Well
Good
done,
game,
Richard.
Anthony.
Yeah, well done, well done.
Cheers for that.
Everton have got a new investor who owns a 49% stake, and it looks like they might be more serious in the transfer market. But what we want to talk about is Roberto Martinez, who's been accused of underachieving. They're currently 12th in the league. Do you think that's a fair comment?
Yes and no. It's a hard one with Everton because the problem that Everton have had for many, many years is not really the transfer shackles that are on them, but more so the ground that they're in. And that really sort of limits what they can do as a club. Goodison is probably the most old school of all the football grounds in the Premier League nowadays. But you look at them at the side, and they've got 3 players there that could get in pretty much most sides in the Premier League and most sides in the world. So you would think that 11th is a bit below where they should be.
12th.
12th, or even worse than.
When his first season, Martinez's first season, they finished 5th and they had a brilliant season there. But I mean, do you think that's the sort of level they should be at? They should be in that sort of group, or
They should be challenging certainly every year for the Europa League.
Yeah, they've certainly regressed slightly over the last couple of years, but I just think this season their game management has been quite bad. I don't know if I think it's more because of Martinez's manager sort of style than opposed to the players themselves. But you look at the draw against Bournemouth, where they conceded a 98th minute goal, again at Chelsea, and then losing on Saturday, they're 2-0 up, and I don't know, they had 10 men, but they missed a penalty to make it 3-0. And you just think these sort of results are becoming all a bit too familiar now, and with this new majority shareholder, sort of main shareholder coming in, you sort of wonder if all this money's being promised in the summer, is he going to be the man to be allowed to spend it? Because I don't think he's necessarily the next person to lose his job in the Premier League, but there's certainly going to be an element of pressure there, and I think his sort of time is almost coming to an end at Goodison. I think he's not pushing the club on. I think they're sort of, like I say, going backwards under him, so maybe it's time for a new impetus. Now they've got a new shareholder in to sort of change the manager and give someone else a go.
I think one of the things is, especially this season, is just that the middle ground of the Premier League is just so much. Yeah, there's not the little, these are the top 4 teams, these are the next Europa League teams, and then the rest are just all shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it only takes sort of a run of 2 or 3 wins or losses either way, and you can go from sort of 6th to 12th all of a sudden. So
anyone can beat anyone nowadays.
It's funny.
That's right, yeah.
It's funny you should say that because Everton had lost their last 3. They're on 38 points. But they could still qualify for the Europa League. If you assume 7th is enough, Liverpool are there on 44, which is 6 points in front. So it's only a couple of wins, and then, things are suddenly looking better for them.
Yeah, they've got a goal difference as well of plus 12, which is the same as West Ham in 5th.
Their form's been incredibly patchy though, hasn't it? Because they'll do things like this. They'll lose 3 on the bounce, and then they'll probably win 3 in a row, and then everything will be sort of okay for Martinez, and then they'll revert to type again. So everyone keeps picking points with each other, and it's an incredibly congested sort of middle pack of teams, isn't it? So I do think ultimately they are like I say, there are sort of extenuating circumstances, but it'll be interesting to see whether Martinez is actually still in the hot seat come next season, is actually allowed to be the man who spends the promised transfer kitty.
Well, there was
you never sort of think at this time in this stage of the season that 14 points would separate 6 to 16.
Yeah. There was an argument against Martinez saying that he can set up teams well to attack and play nice football, but he can't organise a defence, which was certainly true at Wigan. And the argument is that he inherited a good defence from David Moyes, and that's why they were good in the first season, and since then they've fallen away a bit. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, because Everton have always, for many years, been regarded as such a solid defending side. You'd go to Goodison and Goodison was always one of them grounds that if you came away with a point, you'd be happy. Even if you were fighting for the title, if you went to Everton and got a point, you'd had a good game. And people go into Everton now, and it's not a big issue. You can score 2 or 3 against Everton nowadays.
Yeah, I certainly think Everton they're picking up more Martinez-style traits in their sort of play now, aren't they? And their defence teams are all a bit soft and leaky. So I think yeah, you can tell Martinez has put his stamp on the team, but for the negative reasons more than the good ones, to be honest. So yeah, I think it's a very fair criticism.
All right. Well, as you mentioned before, it's a very congested league at the moment, and what is quite interesting is the race for the top four. Do you think there's a chance Arsenal or Man City can not finish in the top four?
Yeah. The way this league's gone, anything could absolutely happen. You look at West Ham, they're probably the form team in the league at the moment. They can most certainly knock one of them out of the top four. I wouldn't say United.
I don't even think Spurs are necessarily safe in the top four yet. I know, don't want to be pessimistic after us losing tonight, but it's only 6 points from West Ham, so it only takes a couple of defeats. I know we've got to go to Liverpool away, Chelsea away. It's not done and dusted yet, so potentially you could see the top four as it is now not be that come the end of the season, but I think personally it'll probably stay as it is, but there's no reason why it couldn't happen. But I don't know if West Ham have quite got the enough to sort of push them over the line over Man City, but a lot could still change in 9 games, couldn't it? I mean, we keep saying this every week. It's the most interesting Premier League season, and it's certainly going to not stop getting interesting yet. So who knows?
All right. Final point I want to move on to it's the FA Cup this weekend, so be good to get some predictions. Arsenal beat Hull 4-0 earlier in the week, and they play Watford this weekend.
I could see an upset there. I know that the strikers for Watford had gone a bit off the boil. Deeney, I don't think is as good this half of the season as he was the first half, but I think Arsenal will be concentrating a lot more on other games. I think hasn't he already said that the FA Cup's not as big a deal this season for them?
Well, I think I'd argue differently because they're out of the Champions League, and they are.
Well, they're not yet, are they? They will be come next week.
Well, I think
Let's not forget though they won the cup the last 2 years. I don't think they're going to be in a rush to not try and win it for a third, are they? So when you say upset, I don't think they'll lose. If Watford can get a draw, that'd be a great result for them. Especially like you say, the goals have dried up. But I think Arsenal will have enough to win that.
One other thing about Arsenal before we move on, Theo Walcott said there's been a meeting amongst the players and it's really helped them with their team spirit and morale. Thought it was quite an interesting thing to him to come out and say. Reading Crystal Palace is their Friday game.
I don't know how Reading are doing in the Championship.
They're sort of mid. They're not really getting anywhere, I don't think, off the top of my head.
That's pretty much the same as Palace in the Premier League.
I had 14th in my head as well.
I think Palace will pull through, but they're not really pulling up trees at the moment.
I think for Palace, the Cup's been the only sort of brief respite in an awful 2016 so far, isn't it? So I'd make Palace the slight favourites. But then again, Reading got to the semi-final stage last season, so I wouldn't be too surprised if they pulled off another relative upset tomorrow night. But I'll just give Palace the edge, I reckon. I think Palace to win.
Everton versus Chelsea.
Richard, what do you reckon about that one?
As I said a few minutes ago about Everton, if it was at Goodison a few years ago, then I'd have gone for Everton, but I'm going for Chelsea in this one.
I'm going to go for Everton because I think Chelsea are going to be a bit deflated after Wednesday's defeat, and also if Hazard and Costa are out, they're not going to be as dangerous as they possibly could be. And I think that the Cup is Everton's only it's their only chance of silverware this season. And I think they'll be up for it. So I'm going to put my neck on the line and go for an Everton win.
And finally,
I think having Hazard out is a blessing in disguise for
this season.
I suppose you can look at it like that.
Final game is United against West Ham.
I can't call a United game at all nowadays. Every time that they take 2 steps forward and you think they've turned a corner, then they pull off a game like against West Brom and it's back to square one again. West Ham are the best team in the league at the moment, I'd say they're actually better than Leicester at the moment, because Leicester have got to that point of just dragging themselves over the line in games, whilst West Ham actually look pretty good. So I'm going for a West Ham win.
Controversial.
I reckon it'll be a draw, because like you say, Manchester United seem to be blowing hot and cold, and you think they're getting momentum, and then it's back to square one again. But they seem to be doing quite well in the Cups. I know they're sort of losing tonight, but again, I think Van Gaal would like to sort of, if he's going to go in this summer, at least try and depart with some silverware. So I reckon a draw and a replay back up to the park.
It's about time United won the trophy again.
What was it, 2004 the last time? Off the top of my head, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Alright, well, thanks for joining me tonight. We've got a couple of interviews. Colin Dolan from Mental Health Football UK today, which is up. You can listen to that. You can check out the latest episode of the 72 show. We've got Daryl Willard interview to follow us as well. You can follow us on Twitter, it's at V2Football. You can also check out Dan's blog, which you run.
That's right, yeah. It's www.realfootballman.com.
All right.
So if you want to visit that, I would very much appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to us, and good night.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Thank you.
Good night.